Iron Flame, Rebecca Yarros' sequel to the blockbuster Fourth Wing, which has captured the hearts and mind of people all across the world. But how does the sequel stand up? Is Iron Flame strong as steel or stinky as sulfur? You like that one? I intend to take you on a journey into the past, to my own past, to the past before I finished the book, because I read the book. But soon you'll see a me who hasn't read the book yet, and go through a mythical journey as I ride the waves of the pages. Right? But you can see in my eyes whether or not I thought this book was good, or did it fall flat? Is this the makings of a series for the ages? Or not. I guess that's what we're finding now. But look into my eyes. You can already see the truth. They're there. It's hidden there. Oh, why'd you flinch? I can't get to you, okay? I'm looking at a camera and you're looking at it on your own phone. I can't reach through the screen yet. I do check-ins as I read the book, and then at the end of it, I'm going to give a spoiler-free recap. So if you haven't read the book and you want to know if it's good, but you're still thinking about reading it, I'll put a timestamp in the description. You could jump forward to this guy again, the sweater guy. The sweater guy. That's me. You could skip to that part, and I'll just talk about the thoughts, right? If you watch the little in-between clips, you'll get a little bit more insight, a little bit more smartness, right? As I have thoughts appearing to me as I read the pages. You'll get the same like arc though, the same feelings. It'll become very clear to you how I feel about this book. But it might surprise some. That's my let's commence one. Okay? Cut the video. Owen, are you listening? Cut. We are officially started into Iron Flame. I'm about 36 pages in, and I'll say this. I think it's a good thing that I actually read Fourth Wing recently, because this book jumps straight into it. I think I said that about the first book, is that it kind of dives into this fantasy world. You know, you're learning a lot of things through dialogue. It's a very similar start, except Violet is in this new world, this world of rebellion and plans and battle maps and stuff like that. So she's catching up alongside us here. But I feel like if I wouldn't have read the first book so recently, it would have been almost overwhelming. They're talking about like positionings and magical creatures coming through the sky. And at first I'm like, what are they talking about? I forgot the whole climax of the last book, that magic creatures have come to life. And they're looking for magic weapons of some kind. It's all sounding very vague to me right now. I really got to it needs to click in my head, like wards and the magic and what's keeping the dragons in, keeping the dragons out, the dragons power it, the griffins and the sorcerers. It's all very vague, but I think that's not a bad thing because Violet doesn't know everything yet. A lot of these characters are learning things together, but we're about 40 pages in. I like the dynamic between Violet and Brennan. I think this new relationship dynamic will add a breath of fresh air to this series instead of just going further into her and Xaden, because I feel like their relationship is pretty established, and sometimes if it's just them, yeah, we love each other for sure, it can get a little stale. So I think this dynamic of a thought dead brother will be an interesting twist. And I'm interested to see what the author does with Violet and Xaden, if she takes any risks with their characters and their arcs, or we're just going to do rom-com, they're going to fall in love, and they're going to have a big fight in this book. And maybe it'll end on the fight, because maybe it's a 3-book arc. Who knows? I have no idea where this book's going to go, unlike the first one where you know instantly where it's going to go, because the mystery of the romance is gone. We're just pure fantasy, which maybe will be boring. I know some of the worst parts of last book was where it felt a little bit unfocused. But this one seems pretty clear-cut. It's a rebellion. You got to beat the magical demon creatures coming from the sky, right? What's going to happen? I don't know this time. I really don't. I'm excited, though.
One thing I hope this book gets into, and it kind of hinted at in the first one, was like the politics of the dragons. I feel like in the first book, they kind of hinted at it, but right now I'm like 70 pages in, and there's a lot of like human, like who's telling the truth, who's lying, you know, like who can you trust, and they're telling like selective truths to try to like not out the rebellion, but also like tell the truth about what happened. And it made me think, like, are the dragons doing the same thing with other dragons, but they like speak to each other, or do they all know about this rebellion and they're just keeping it from their humans because of the government? I have no idea, because it makes it sound like all the dragons know about this war because they got to protect their young and like their society and stuff like that. So why aren't the dragons just taking over? The dragons are so much more powerful than the humans. They established that so many times, and yet, like, it's like cat and mouse. So I'm thinking like the only rational solution was, but like, if the humans don't know, the dragons don't know, or the dragons are also like keeping up this front. But like the people that are like behind this conspiracy don't seem like the most powerful people in the society, if that makes sense. Like Violet's mom isn't a part of it, and she's like probably one of the top three most powerful people in the world. So like I don't know what's holding us back right now, for the dragons at least, from fighting the power. Question you gotta ask. And another thing, it's the same day, day 2, by the way, and I'm still only 70 pages in, but there's been 3 occasions already in this book where like the swears are like not strategically placed. And it's just like Violet's mom has done it, Violet has done it, Xaden has done it, where it's like they swear in the middle of a sentence, not in a way that like a normal human would use a swear word, but it's almost like just to be edgy. It's like, I'm gonna swear for emphasis. Screw you. But it's like, it doesn't make that much sense, and just makes it sound like the author like just learned swear words and is like, I'm gonna make this older by putting a swear word in the middle of a sentence. Like, I could see Violet, maybe she's kind of younger, she's in her 20s. Xaden, sure, he's edgy, dark boy. General Sorrengail is using the F word, an emphasis in the middle of like a trial, while still being stoic. Doesn't really make much sense. I just feel like, in general, it's like an easy writing technique to rely on, like swear words for like to show like anger, to show intense emotion. But when it's used incorrectly, it just feels sloppy, and it's just kind of a crutch. I feel like a lot of writers use it as a crutch. That's more so in movies, I've noticed, or like scripts more specifically. But I'm noticing it in this book, and I noticed it multiple times already, and we're not that far into the book. That's just a little writing tip for you. Don't over rely on swear words. It's just kind of, it's not as potent or powerful, impactful as you may think it is. Just saying. Day 3, we're about 150 pages in, so there has been a little bit of hints of dragon politics and the Empyrean and disagreements between them. We got a little bit tidbit of that information, and that whole lore, the dragon like society, is so interesting to me, but I feel like they only ever brush upon it, and it's kind of disappointing. And I hope they get into that, either if not in this book, maybe like further down in the series. One thing I am worried about 150 pages in is that one of the main problems of the last book was where it kind of got stagnant. The protagonist didn't really have anything to like strive towards. We didn't really know what she wanted, and I feel like everything that's happened so far in this book has happened to the protagonist, not because of the protagonist. Like, she's kind of waiting for her to be assassination attempt. She's kind of waiting for news from the rebellion front. So like, she's in this rebellion at the start of the book, and I'm like, okay, great. She's gonna have a very active role. Immediately gets sent back to school where she can't get in contact with the rebellion, she can't talk about the rebellion, and she's just waiting for stuff to happen to her, which, if it goes on for too long, it just makes for a stale book, and it made for the slowest parts of the last one. And hopefully she gets a goal soon is all I'm asking for. But 150 pages in, we're cooking. Day 4, a little over 200 pages now, and kind of following up on what I was saying the other day, this whole book kind of feels a bit like it's vamping, if that makes sense. I'm over a quarter of the way through, and I think I understand what the problem is. So this whole like thing is like this dragon school, right? So like I instantly compare it in my head to like Harry Potter. And one thing Harry Potter does well is that the first couple books are just pure like exploring the school, the intrigue of the school, and then slowly it builds like this wider political conflict as like we kind of get like, all right, we get the school, it's magic school, right? This series so far starts off with like the dragon school, the dragon trials, the things you gotta do to survive in this wacky dragon school. But then the end of the first book is almost too extreme into like the wider politics of the kingdom and the rebellion and stuff like that. Like, she's in this rebellion at the start of the book. She's with her brother again. She's with the politics, the planning of the maps, the timetable. There's a time crunch. They got to save the wars before everything collapses. But then we instantly get taken back to the school and she's just back in different trials and different politics and a different in second year, and it's almost like Yarrow showed her hand too quickly with like the wider politics of the world, because it just makes everything with the school seem a little bit more trivial, if that makes sense. It's like if, like, going back to Harry Potter, it's like the Order of the Phoenix and Sirius Black, and like he has his house full of all the allies that are going to do a rebellion against Voldemort. It's like we were introduced to them at the end of the Philosopher's Stone, and then we're supposed to like go back to like the Goblet of Fire and like the games and the Quidditch World Cup. It's like, isn't there like a world war we're supposed to be fighting right now? Like we're really doing the Triwizard Tournament right now, and it's just like it feels like, especially with like all of, like the higher generals like having an eye out for Violet and like wanting to assassinate her, literally assassinate her. It's like, shouldn't, like, why is she still in school, and why is she pretending to, or why is she like legitimately interested in school at this point, to graduate into what? Like, I feel like at this point it would make more sense for her character, if someone was in her situation, to literally just abort, find her sister, tell her sister instantly, and then like live with her brother, right? But because I don't really understand, I guess, the end game. I feel like almost the first book could have been better. And keep in mind, this may very well change. We're still early in the book, but I'm 200 pages in. And if this turns into pure rebellion very quickly, it's still 200 pages wasted. But if the first book ended by saying, instead of like surprise attack, rebellion, Brendan is alive. Oh, is it Brendan or Brennan? I can't even remember right now. Because he, as I said at the beginning, it's so interesting in the book, and then he's out of the book instantly. Haven't seen him since page 30. But it would have been almost more pacing-wise if, like, at the end of book one, the reveal is he wasn't killed in battle with the rebellion. The government killed him. Reveal? Then she still has this mistrust. She could still have the thing with, like, the Lieutenant Colonel Ados, whatever Dane's dad is. Still have that beat, still have that threat of, like, you know too much, I'm going to kill you. And have like the thing of like, is my mom in on it? How much does she know? And have all those politics, and you can still have that conflict with Xaden where it's like, you didn't tell me the whole truth, and he's like, I'm not going to tell you the whole truth, like, back off. Oh, I don't love you anymore because you can't tell me the whole truth. Stupid argument, but I appreciate Xaden keeping his guns, being like, listen, you don't deserve to know everything, and you're going to have to love me anyway. Good for him for sake for his guns there, but I think it's a really stupid argument on her part. But that way the whole book was there, and then like the reveal later is that, oh, he survived. And he's fighting the rebellion, and that's when we could really dive deep into this rebellion. Because unless everything's being wrapped up in this book, and it's not like a trilogy, quadrilogy, 5 books or more, I find it hard to believe that this won't just be like a stepping stone to whatever her end game is in book 3 or book 4 or however many books this series is going to be. It just feels like a vamp, because why am I supposed to care about her teaming up with the infantry, walking through the forest? For why? For why? And she doesn't even know why, which is the main problem. I'm not hating it, though. I just feel like the story structure is interesting, and I just feel like it's going to be like this for longer than 200 pages into the book. I feel like we're going to be stuck in this vamping period for a very, very long time. Happy to be pleasantly surprised, though.
Day seven. I'm just under 50%. I'm like 350-ish pages in. And I will say, all of my complaints the other days, it's not with the logic of the book. I'm still enjoying it. It's not bad. I don't think like the world's not making sense. There's like inconsistencies. It's just the lack of agency that was bothering me. But I will say, the mystery and like the little nuggets of good lore with this world are keeping me engaged. She's kind of got her focus a little bit with this investigation about the wars and stuff like that. But it's like the small interactions like with her sister that are like so engaging to me in like this debate of like how much should she tell her. But that's literally like been 3 pages of this whole book. So I'm looking for more juicy interactions with this, because it still kind of feels like we're waiting for her to meet Xaden or for her to talk to Mira and stuff like that. But I also like how her friends are starting to get caught on. So I can see this developing into like her developing her own little rebellion with her friends that don't know about it yet, because they're starting to catch on. And overall, I do enjoy how smart all of these protagonists are. Like, I think Zayden makes good arguments about why he's keeping certain secrets. I think Mira was very quick to catch on like what Violet was going through, and same thing with her friends. Like, they're able to notice when things are off, and they ask the right questions, which I feel like make it more engaging, that all the characters are not like idiots, like just completely blind. And even Dane, I feel like, is more interesting in this book than he was in the last book, because he has like, I don't know, because like it could have been very easy, like he's just a villain now, but he still wants a relationship with Violet, if not romantically, friendship wise. And I think that dynamic is so much more interesting now, that like she's definitely never gonna be with him, is compared to the first book where it's like she's in love with him. It's like, but you're not really in love with him because you're gonna be in love with this guy later. He's more interesting now, and I'm starting to enjoy it a little bit more. It's starting to tick up the scale as I get further along. So let's keep the good momentum going. Let's keep the good vibes going. We're a week. I finished the first book in a week. We're not going to do that. This might take me 2 weeks. It's day 7.
That little clip was me in my cubicle, eating my little lunch, reacting directly to the fact that Jack Barlow is still alive. Jack Barlow. Remember him? He's back. Frankenstein style. Brought from the dead. And you know what? I think it's hilarious. I genuinely think it's hilarious that in a world of magic and dragons, where we've escalated to rebellions and corruption and generals literally trying to assassinate Violet at every turn, the fact that they resurrected the Sharpay Evans of the Fourth Wing universe to be her nemesis again, fantastically ridiculous. And I am so here for it. I really hope they just keep him as cartoonishly evil, cartoonishly high school villain as he was in the first book. That would be so funny to me. And I'm not saying this in like, oh, it's so bad, it's funny way. No, I genuinely think it would be hilarious. And I'm so here for it. Not in an ironic way. The first book, I really thought his character was a waste of time, but him being brought back from the dead, he better be twice as evil, twice as insufferable. Would it be so funny if in every book they killed him and brought him back in more ridiculous ways? That would be hilarious. And you know what? I sounds like I'm being like disingenuous here. I am a little bit scared of Frankenstein Jack Barlow. He is more threatening to me. It's like, oh, like this silly little high school bully who really didn't mean much. He's back from the dead. We healed his bones one by one and knit them back together. It's like the Winter Soldier. He's back and scarier than ever. I think Violet should genuinely be afraid of him. And I hope it's not like, oh, I've learned the error of my ways type junk. He better be cartoon evil. That's all I want. And you know what? Things are picking up. Things are picking up, and it might just be Jack Barlow on the horizon saving this book single-handedly. But Dane is having the redemption arc of a lifetime. He's making all the right decisions. He's becoming more and more interesting every single page. I respect him for it. And I think getting a lot of the first book romance structure out of the way, I think I said this earlier, like I don't really know where this book is going. It could go anywhere. The sequel could go anywhere. Obviously, it's setting up a wider series, and I'm sure it's not going to get wrapped up in this book, considering how much time we're not spending with the rebellion and like the wider world outside of the school. But I think it allows for unique moments like this where the characters are kind of unbound by their stereotypes. He's not the boy next door who's going to get looked over anymore. He already was that. So now how is he going to evolve? How is he going to stay relevant? And so far, the choices that the author's making with his character, I'm here for it. I think he's a lot more interesting now. His flaw in the first book of always having to follow the rules comes to save Violet in book 2. I think that's a great twist of fate. Obviously, it's still a little bit meandering, but you know what? Every choice that's being made like individually on a page-by-page basis, I have no problems with. And there's been a lot of great character moments. Jack Barlow is alive. And you know what? Let's see what he does. Jack Barlow, good guy? Jack Barlow, good guy? Are you kidding me?
I don't think so. He saved her life. It's a ruse. It's got to be a ruse. Think of it this way, kids. Why would the author want to bring this guy back to life to give him some kind of redemption arc? First of all, no one cared about him that much to begin with, so he doesn't need a redemption arc. We didn't care. And why would the evil general teacher spend all that effort to revive them if he's going to just let him be good? It's got to be a brainwash. It's gonna be a brainwash. He's going to stab her in the back after they're going to pretend to be friends, which is a strange tactic, by the way, to resurrect her enemy and then have the enemy win her over with friendship and then be evil again. I don't know what we're wasting our time on right now. I am so confused of where this book is going and what we're trying to accomplish here. My only grasp of sanity was Jack Barlow cartoonishly evil. And now I don't know what the play is. I don't know how many twists and turns this is going to take. I think overall, I'm glad she told her friends about what's going on here. We're just over 400 pages in. Not even 50% yet. We're at 46%. But I just feel like the editing was not edited. There was no in this book, right? There's no, what are we doing? Got to do it fast. There's none of that. In terms of structure and plot, it's very meandering. I think that's to summarize what I've been saying these last few days. And it's not an uncommon complaint, even from what I just heard just in life. Everybody I've talked to in real life that's read it, it's like, oh, well, it's not as good as the first one. It's really long. Usually when people say it's really long, they usually mean they're bored by the length of it. Because there's long books where it's like, oh, like that's a doorstop, but it earns its length. When people say it's really long, it means that they were bored. And I'm not hating this book. Don't get me wrong. I'm complaining about it a lot. I just feel like it's just meandering, man. I'm just 400 pages in and I still don't know where we're going. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Let's get through it. This is day 8, by the way. But really another thing that I was thinking about, just in terms of like the outline of this book, like, I've been talking all the dude all day about the structure and how I feel like it's not really going anywhere, but I think the problem is, because there is a little bit of like goal-oriented stuff with Violet and her friends trying to find more information, going to the archives, getting lore, or stuff like that. But the problem with me is it's all very vague fantasy stuff to me right now, because we're spending a lot of time discussing the wards and what powers the wards and how to extend the wards and the wards protect, but I feel like I can't grasp my head around why they're so important. Like, I understand, like, vaguely they protect the people of the country and not everyone's protected by it, so they're getting attacked, but it just doesn't feel concrete to me. Like, it's either not simple enough or it's so simple, but like it's not engaging. Like I really don't understand. Like, the wards, are they protecting against the mythical creatures? Are they causing the mythical creatures to attack other places? Are the magical creatures trying to get through? Or are they just repelled by it? It's very vague. So, and also it has the issue of the victories that we're having from our main characters are them finding out more information about this fantasy ward thing that we're trying to protect that we really don't understand. And that gives a sense like we're trying to find information, but we as the readers, or at least me, okay, maybe you're smarter than me, don't understand the question. So the answers aren't as intriguing. So I feel like just now they're like, oh, well, there's a vault underneath the city and we can find the ancient books that will tell us the explanation of, and I'm like, is it not simple enough? Like, just destroy the magical creatures. Like, my brain's telling me, like, let's go to the real battle, the war between the dragons and the magical beasts. That's what we're waiting for. So all this, like, lore and searching deep in the archives for a secret treasure to make more shields, is that what we're really searching for here in this battle of dragons and creatures and corruption in general is trying to assassinate her? The only victories we get is like finding information to stuff that I don't know what we're asking, and I feel like that's the source of my frustration. It's like they're playing this heist essentially of information, but I, as the reader, do not understand why this is important. Which is another reason why it feels like so meandering and feels so unimportant and it feels so stalling, is because
I don't care about the questions. I'd rather you guys all train up to start fighting some demons, right? Let's take the fight to the front. That's more interesting to me. It's more interesting trying to like topple the government from their corruption. Why are they trying to hide this information? That's a more important question than the magic shield of the West or whatever they're trying to do. It's just my thoughts. We are so back. We are so back. The climax of part 1 with the torture, the ultimate redemption of Dane, the reveal with her mother and how she planned basically the whole first book, all part of her master plan to protect Violet. It's exactly what I needed, and since then, I've been on a roll. We're past 500 pages now, and all of a sudden, we're so back. I'm so into it again, and I think it's great. As I predicted, the second half of this book is going to be pure rebellion, and I like kind of how they ended it, where it's kind of like a rebellion school now. They got professors, it's mostly students again, but this time they're fighting for the cause instead of just like fighting for the enemy, but like pretending they don't know and how far they're going to go with it. The only thing I don't understand exactly is what Violet's mom is trying to do now, because she kind of reveals like, oh yeah, I knew about the wyvern and all the creatures, and I had Zayden protecting the first book, but also go to the rebellion and I'm not going to follow you. So I don't know if she's just trying to still like be a double agent with them or just like keep the status quo but just protect her daughter. Not really sure there, but other than that, it's really picking up. I think the second half of this book is going to be much better. We still got a long way to go. I mean, 500 pages in, still just under 400 pages left, an entire book's worth of stuff, but I think a lot of that vamping was just to get to this part, to get to this mini climax we had in the middle of the book here, and I think it paid off well. But Varys is dead. Varys is dead, but Jack Barlow's still alive. So is the guy who brought him back to life not integral to this plan of Jack Barlow? So now he's just alive and no one's ordering him around? That's the world's greatest mystery, is what the heck is going on with Jack Barlow? He's good, he's bad, he's good, he's bad, he's dead, he's alive. But we're 500 pages in. It's like we've hit the highway of this book. And if we could speed all the way to the end, that would be fantastic. Never mind. Her mom told everybody about the truth. And Mira's on the squad. Exactly what I needed to happen. Exactly what I needed to happen. Perfect. The whole family's fighting together. It's wholesome and it's fun. Bit of a time jump, day 13. I had a bit of travel, and I didn't want to be that guy that vlogs in public. And quite frankly, I may never be that guy. But we read a lot in that time. We are 750 pages into the book, final stretch, just a little over 100 pages left, which means we read over a little over 200 pages in that time. Overall, nothing too dramatic to share. I do feel like just overall there are some sequences, some chapters even that definitely could have been cut out, especially regarding like the Griffin Riders in that whole society. I just think she's trying to do too much. I think she's trying to add too much world building maybe into this book, especially because I guess the premise of this series is very heavily tied into this dragon school, right? However, I think the problem with this book is that the dragon school is no longer the most interesting thing about the series. It's the rebellion that's overshadowed it, and we talked about that before, how that kind of like lessened all the stakes of the school if you have like a rebellion in actual lives of the line rather than these war games and stuff like that. But I did like the development of breaking away from the school at the end of the first act, or first part rather, and they kind of bring some professors with them. They bring a lot of the students with them to kind of set up this own school. It's like, it's still the school. They can still have some like the rituals of the school and like the culture of the school, but they're in a new place and they're actually serving the rebellion, which kind of feel like lessens that impact of the rebellion on the stakes of the school, because they kind of broke away from the kingdom or empire or whatever it is. But then they introduced this whole like Griffin kingdom, right? Like the people of this land that are outside of the wards, and they have their own students, and the Griffins need to learn too. We need to have the Griffin riders learn how to be Griffin riders. So we're going to merge them together. And I understand, I guess, why she thought this was a good idea. It kind of like gives new blood into the dragon school, new characters, new dynamics, new drama with Zayden's ex, right? But then there's a whole scene where the Griffin Riders have to walk through a pass, and there's something that happens in this book a lot where it's like things are introduced in kind of like a characters know everything about it and they're like, oh my gosh, that thing. And us as the readers are left being like, what is this thing? And not in like a what is this thing? It's like, what are you talking about? Please stop talking about it. Just get me up to speed. Give me some exposition. Because then they're like, it's the pass of danger. The pass of danger. They can't do it, the pass of danger. Oh, why is it the pass of danger? Oh, well, it's not the pass of danger for us. It's a pass of danger for the Griffin Riders. Why do I care then? And then we're gonna have a whole chapter where the Griffin Riders have to walk through, but we're gonna walk with them. We're gonna walk with them through the pass of danger because it's a trial thing, it's an altitude thing. And it's just like, why are we spending so much time on like the Griffins and their introduction to the group? Because I just feel like that's not what this book is about. That's what the next book's gonna be about. Is this fully merging together of the two groups, because we only have 15% left in this book. And it's just like, I just feel like there's plot points that could have been narrowed down to, and there's also just like certain elements that I feel like just don't fit in with like the vibe of the story either. Particularly earlier in the story when like Violet's being tortured, she sees like the Force ghost of Liam. I liked that moment. I feel like Liam as a dead guy is actually way more interesting than he was when he was alive. But that felt like a weird moment. It's like we have those like delusion or hallucinations in this book. It doesn't really feel like it fits in the vibe. In isolation, I did like that moment though. I thought, like I said, Liam was an interesting character when he was a Force ghost. But there's also like her nightmares, and she's like dreaming of like the big bad. And the big bad's like, "Hello, I see you. I'm Freddy Krueger." But it's just a way to like build up a villain, so he's like not just like a faceless demon, but also he is still that, except like sometimes there's dream sequences. I'm like, this doesn't feel like a dream sequence type book either. And it's just stuff like that. It's just like, and I don't even know how to describe it either, because I feel like Yaros knows what she wants to do with this series, but she just needed an editor. And I feel like that's what a lot of people say about this book, is that she just needed an editor. It probably could have been multiple hundreds of pages shorter. We could have been a lot denser. This could have been about the journey of Violet breaking away from the school officially, and maybe you end that book there, but maybe you need a little bit more sequencing. But I think this whole drama with like her mom and her siblings is infinitely more interesting than whatever we got going on with the Griffins and the other society, because her friends and her people aren't acclimated to the rebellion yet. So how are we going to also have a new group of people acclimate to the rebellion while also acclimating to the people that we already know? I feel like it's too many fish out of waters at once, and I don't care about all of them, so a lot of them feel like they're wasting my time, right? Because even like Violet's sister is a fish out of water too. So I don't know. I don't know if this is just two books made into one, or it's just one book really, really stretched out. An example of things feeling kind of stretched out is this conversation Violet and Zayden have been having literally the entire book. I liked it in the beginning because Zayden was holding his ground. He's like, listen, you don't need to know everything about me to trust me. I got some secrets too. Violet will not let it go. She goes, if you don't tell me everything about everything you know, then we're done so. And then he's kind of like, well, then you got to ask me. I'm like, okay, interesting. But then every single conversation they have, they just repeat that same conversation every single time. Tell me the secret, you got to ask me. Tell me the secret, you got to ask me. Probably 50 times. It's not the most frustrating conversation, but it just does not develop. And even this big reveal that they had about Zayden's second power, it kind of ended the same way, right? Do they trust each other? Do they love each other? Of course they love each other. Of course they love each other. That's why they care so much. But now Zayden's playing I'm such a monster, you won't love me anymore. As a reader, we don't care as much about the mind reading thing. That's a character in universe thing that they care about. So the emotional gut punch of like, oh my God, he's a freak, he's a mind reader, it doesn't hit hard for me. Because personally, while I would be creeped out if someone in real life had that mind reading power, I feel like in a mythical world of magical powers, to me, reading a fantasy book, it sounds pretty cool. You can read people's intentions. Sounds cool to me. I don't really know what your problem is. It's not like he can read your thoughts. You even explain that, but then you're still like, but did he read my thoughts? He just told you he can't. He just told you that. And he even said if your shields are up, he can't even do the intentions thing. So what are you so mad about? So in this clip alone, I complained about characters knowing more than me and characters knowing less than me. I don't even know what's going on anymore. but we're in the final stretch. I plan to finish this in the next couple days. We're definitely going to finish it before February. It's a long book, though. Almost 900 pages. Can you believe it? I can, reading it. But it's not too bad. It's not too bad. There are worse slogs that I've read. It's not a slog. It's just kind of unfocused, I think is my summary. And one more thing, just because I like hearing myself speak this morning, I feel like the time dilation feels inconsistent to me in this book, if that makes sense. And it's not always with battle sequences, although she does like to skip battle sequences, which I completely understand. They're hard to write, and sometimes they're hard to read, especially if they're bad. Battle sequences are so laborious to read, right? Nothing worse than a bad battle sequence. So I completely understand, like, I raise my sword, ready to charge the horde. Flash, I'm wiping the blood of my sword. What a battle well won. Because a lot of times the battle itself isn't important, especially if nothing's going to be gained from it, no plot is going to progress. You don't need to do, I swing my sword, the dragon flew this way. It's not like, it gets too much like a chess logbook, right? Horse to d4 or whatever. It's not that important, right? I completely understand skipping that. But even in things like actions they're going to do, places they're going to go, within a paragraph, we jump from, we have to do this really important thing to, it's done. And I get really disoriented of when we are. And this is like the most recent example is like with the wards, right? They keep building up like, we have the ability to do the wards, we're going to save and do the wards, right? And the moment when she learns, then she's going on a trip. And I didn't understand where she was going with the trip or why she was going with the trip. That's when she gets like ambushed by the other dragon. And I was like, wait, what? Is this immediately after? Like, is she just, because Xaden wasn't there, that why she went on this trip? Why is she going on this trip? I feel like a lot has happened in a span of a page. And then even later where it's like, we have to do the wards now. The army is coming, put them up now. I thought it'd be this big multi-page moment. The dragons are like bleeding on the stone, blowing fire at it. Oh, the wards. They slowly emerge. A blue force field appears. It just happens in the space of a page where it's like Xaden and Violet are having this multi-page debate about lies and love and stuff like that. And the next page it's like, we get in our dragons, the wards are up, the demons fall down, and then Xaden's like, we won the battle. I'm like, did the battle even start? I don't remember the battle even starting. I don't remember you even seeing a demon, and suddenly they're all dead on the floor, and the wards are up. I feel like this should have been a bigger moment. So I just feel like, and maybe I'm losing my mind. Maybe I'm accidentally skipping multiple pages every time. I don't think I am, but it just feels very, like, jumpy. Does that make sense? It feels jumpy. And maybe it's because after the jumps, it's not properly explained like what was skipped in the time being. But it's also just like, there's not like time markers for like when we're jumping to. Like, should be like, oh, then I woke up the next morning, or not even the next morning, I woke up. It's like, you woke up, is it a week from now? Is it a month from now? And I made fun of this in the first book. But she used days of the week in the first book. Have not seen a single Wednesday, have not seen a single Tuesday in this book. But if you're doing a lot of time jumping, you know what? It's a good frame of reference for me. So perhaps I spoke too harshly in that first book in those terms, but it's disorienting. Day 14, and we are done. Jack Barlow, anyone? Cartoonishly villainous. Did I not crave it? Did I not yearn for it? And I got it. I think the ending was very strong. I think the hook going into book 3 is definitely a strong one. I have no idea how that's going to play out with Xaden turning to the dark side, reaching into the dark side of the Force to win the day. I think it's one of those few cases, because I find last chapter POV switches to be quite cheesy. However, I do appreciate that we did go back just to relive that quick moment, although like the ending moment with Jack Barlow, like why are we ending the book with Jack Barlow? I know it's a bit that I like him. I actually despise him as a character. I think it's really stupid, but I do think it's funny that he's like the cartoonishly villain guy, and now he's just like Hannibal Lecter in a prison cell. Is that going to be his character now? But it's an interesting development. I don't know how they're going to save him. To the power of love, no doubt. But that's book 3, and at the speed that she writes, I'm sure it'll come out like tomorrow or something, and it'll be 17,000 pages long. But from now, we're going to do, from here on out, I guess, from now till the next clip, it's going to be a spoiler-free overall summary thoughts. But just my last spoiler thoughts, I think her mom sacrificing herself felt good.
It didn't feel good. I just mean as a plot device, I thought it worked. She wasn't a super fleshed out character, but I think the bringing in the whole drama of like Brennan being like, "I hate you, Mom. You didn't care about me," versus "I love you, Brennan. Like, why don't you look at me?" That would have been exhausting carrying that forward. So I think her sacrifice will be a good way to tie up their family tension. But now there's going to have be grief and all that stuff. But the next big twist is her dad really dead? Wouldn't be surprised if he just popped out of nowhere in book 3, but that was nice. And now everyone's kind of on the same page. It seems like the Empire/Kingdom may be more inclined to fight with them now. They're back in the Dragon School. They warded the Dragon School, not the fake Dragon School. So we're back in the Dragon School, which I feel like is good. You got to have a home base. And the Griffins did end up joining the final battle because I was worried for a little bit that we were going to spend all that time setting them up and then they weren't even going to be there. Of course, they had their like, we're here to fight. They didn't do jack shit during that final battle. I don't think there was one mention of a Griffin doing anything of value. So was that a wasted plot line? Yes. Could we have saved that for maybe a later book? Yes, I think so. They better play an important role in future books or else we've wasted a lot of time on Griffins and their little magic powers that aren't quite as strong as our powers, but they're more natural or whatever they say, but we'll see. On to the overall thoughts. And it's me again. Okay. So this is my spoiler-free general overview recap. If you watch the entire video, I'm going to be repeating a lot of the same things, but if you only watch the beginning and then skip to now, basically what I thought was, I can see why so many people were disappointed by this book. I don't know if I was disappointed. I would just say I was underwhelmed by a lot of it. I think Yaros makes a lot of great character decisions and some great plot decisions that further advance the book, especially the way that this book ends. I think it sets up the third book perfectly. However, I know people get annoyed by this, and I get annoyed by it too, when it's just like authors are just kind of vamping. And this book is a vamp, right? And what I mean by that, if you don't know what that is, we're just pushing along, right? If I could stretch this book out really, really far, I get a whole book. I get a whole book of sales and another 6 months to a year, unless you're writing these books like twice a year. Like first of all, slow down, okay? They don't need to be pumped out that fast. People will remember what Fourth Wing is in 2 years from now. I promise you, you don't need to rush. But it just kind of like buys her time to like write the third book in the series. Like, and from what I heard, there's gonna be 5 books. I don't know if you got 5 books of material. Maybe it was 3 books of material and you're stretching it out to 5. But it's just a lot of this book, because it's very long, it's 900 pages. It could have been probably cut in half and have all the great parts that I really liked about it. It's just a lot of expansion of the world, which some people might appreciate, but it has the same problem that I feel like other fantasy romance books have, is when they try to expand the world too much, it all kind of gets paper thin. Right? In the first book, we were really condensed to the school. In this book, we kind of break out of the school. We waste a lot of time on like side things that I don't really fully understand. The magic system gets expanded, I guess, in a way that it just doesn't click in my brain. So I just felt like there was a lot of wasted page space in this book. And that is my main and really only complaint. Like there's some like plot details I think are kind of cheesy, some like little side stories that we get through there. And then there's some characters at the end who, like the final battle of the stakes are, it's all her friends, but like you really only care about like 2 or 3 of them. But for the most part, it was just a pacing issue. And I would say go as far as saying it was an editing issue, right? She should have spent more time on this book to really narrow down specifically what she wanted the story to be about and narrow down the best parts of this book, because we wasted a lot of time. And I think if you're a fan of Fourth Wing, you will want to read this book, because I think it takes the characters, the things that you liked about Fourth Wing, and it does take them not in a new direction, in an interesting direction. It does further their story. You just got to get through a lot of muck, right? And I think in the third book, maybe Yaros has to think about what is resonating with the audiences in that first book, and what do they like about the second book, and just cut the fluff, right? Because this is not an ensemble fantasy epic series. This is Violet and Xaden's story mixed in with some family drama. That's what appeals to me in the story. I feel like that's what resonates with a lot of people. They like the romance, they like a little bit of spice, but they like the drama and I like less so the wards and the magic and stuff like that. But and also too, I feel like I might have said this in my first review of the first book too. We need more dragons. The dragons are fascinating. I think the dragons are strong in this character. I think the dragons get interesting to develop in their magic system, but we're spending time on stuff that's just superfluous. But like I said, I think this book ends in an interesting place, and I will be picking up book 3 when it comes out because it ends in an interesting place, and I'd like to see where it goes. No spoilers though on what the plot twist is, but if you read the book, then you know, I guess. So spoiler-free review. It has its moments. It's bloated though, very, very bloated. That's really all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys enjoy this journey style of video as well. Be sure to like and subscribe if you liked the video and you would want to see more like in the future. I'm probably going to do them anyway. I find them a lot more engaging for me, right? And that's what this is about, right? This is about me. Just in case you forget, sometimes I like to remind you, this is about me, okay? Not about you. But thanks for sticking around. It was a long video and you're here all the way to the end. Can you believe it? Or maybe you're the guy that skipped to the timestamp and you finished the video from there. You didn't really stick around that much, okay? But I appreciate you getting to this part where I'm not even talking about the book anymore. I'm just talking. Thanks for sticking around.